everybody. It's Monday, December 6th, and that means it's time for another episode of Chatting with Agnes and Cecilia, Nonprofit Conversations. I'm one of your hosts, Cecilia Supp. I'm the principal and founder of Road Tulips Nonprofit Consulting, and I'm here with my co-host and friend, Agnes. I'm going to throw it over to Agnes to say hello.
Thank you, Cecilia. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to our global audience, wherever you're joining us from. My name is Agnes Amos Coleman. I'm a consultant and an author. Over to you, Cecilia.
Thank you, Agnes. And we're really excited today to have first-time guest Miguel Neves, who's a technology expert, and he is going to share his insights on technology trends to watch. Welcome, Miguel. Would you like to tell us a little about yourself and say hello?
Sure. Hello, everybody. Nice to be here with you. I'm Miguel Neves. I'm currently the editor-in-chief of EventMB, one of the world's largest online publications on event technology and event innovation. And I've been working in the event industry for about 15 years, always with a kind of passion for technology. I've been a planner. I worked for the IMEX trade show for 6 years. I started my own company, and now I've recently got into the publishing side of the industry. So excited to be here and hopefully share some interesting thoughts and some information that you might find useful.
Wow, what an impressive background. We're really glad you're here to give us your insights. So, Miguel, let's just start off. What do you think is the biggest technology trend coming our way in 2022?
Wow, it's been quite a year. Obviously with the COVID pandemic, it's been crazy. Some people talk about technology developing about tenfold, where it would normally have developed what would have normally been a development of 1 year or 10 years took just 1 year. So I think that's really crazy. So it's a really interesting time to be looking at this. I think probably the biggest trend for me is the ability to integrate technologies, the ability to use the best tool that you know for something. Maybe it's the best tool for email marketing. Maybe it's the best tool for social media management, or maybe it's the best association management tool, and connect those, and do that in a way that is hard. It's hard to do this, but we're much better at it than we used to be because technology has developed so much. And if you can do that, you then have a system that kind of almost gives you superpowers. Because if you suddenly are able to use the best tool on the market to do the thing that you want to do, and I think there's a lot of caveats in this, but I think there's also a danger of trying to do too much. So if you can just find the tools that are perfect for you and connect those and make that connection work securely for you, then you have kind of an ultimate machine to do what you need to do. And if you can kind of harness that power, then you're almost unstoppable. Of course, there's lots of lots of crazy words put in there, but I think there's tremendous potential in doing things like that.
That's really so. Agnes, do you have a question?
Yeah, I wanted to talk about the evolution of technology post-COVID. It's interesting. You did say it was a very interesting year, and I totally agree with you. But I wanted to talk about some of the opportunities and challenges the technology has presented for us post-COVID. Do you mind sharing that with our global audience?
Sure. And I probably put the caveat that I'm not sure we are post-COVID. So I think in an ideal world, we are post-COVID. But yes. I feel, and I don't like to give any medical advice or any vaccination advice, anything like that. But just in general, I just feel like it's hard to talk about this in a position of we're over it. It's still happening and it's still affecting us in many ways. But I think, it's been a crazy year. I mean, I started off the year 2020. I had my own company at that point. I was doing marketing communications for associations. I was doing it for other clients in the event industry space. And I watched COVID I was working remotely, so my life didn't change too much. I didn't have a sort of 9-to-5 job that I was going to, in the city or anything like that. And everything started to close down and panic and everything was happening. And I was probably one of the lucky ones that was more involved with technology. So that idea of kind of turning from physical events to virtual events and learning tools and learning how to produce video content and do all these kind of things, for me was quite natural. I just felt like we got this. And I remember feeling a little bit depressed or a little bit anxious about how many people were panicking about this. And I recognize that I'm a little bit different, that I may have more experience in this area than most.
Mhm.
But I feel like most of what was lacking was just confidence. I
Mm,
think if we look back now and we see how we're used to we are of using like Zoom or other advanced tools, we figured it out, right? And I don't think it's that hard. I think it's a confidence and it's a panic and it's a stress that really led us to really question our technology skills, right? And so
mm,
I think it's less of a technology question, but more of a confidence question. And
Mhm.
so I spent a little bit of time in sort of April and May of 2020 doing kind of free webinars and doing online videos, trying to kind of show people, one of the things I remember doing was putting a video on YouTube of using Zoom to record a PowerPoint presentation. So if you wanted to present virtually, but you wanted to pre-record, it's very easy to do it in Zoom. You just kind of, have a call just with yourself and put your slides in and you press record. And at the end of it, you get a video file and you can upload that somewhere on YouTube or whatever. And there's your presentation, right? So I kind of did these things as like, we got this, guys, like this isn't so hard. But there was this kind of tremendous panic. And I remember being in April 2020, part of this thing called the GMID Goes Virtual, the Global
mm,
Meetings Industry Day. It was, the kind of physical celebrations were canceled. So a group of about 50 volunteers got together and just created an online event. And we ended up having 12,500 people online watching this
mm.
event, which we
Gosh.
described as a big kind of hug to the industry because everybody was panicking, everybody was trying to figure stuff out. Um, and I think out of these 50 people that put the event together,
Mhm.
there was like two technology people.
Hmm.
Everybody else were just event planners. They were event professionals, they were association professionals and nonprofit professionals, and they just got together and worked. And a lot of the, working out the content, working out the logistics, we were dealing with the Guinness Book of World Records to try and get a world record. So there's a lot of kind of admin work. That's all
Mhm.
stuff that people understand, right? The event planners and nonprofit professionals understand. So it was amazing to see everybody come together like that. And it was like, we got this. Let's just apply
Wow.
this to other events and trying to figure it out. People went in all sorts of different directions, but I think overall we figured it out, and I think we're now able to make the best of whatever the situation may be ahead of us.
Well, and I
Wow.
think that's an excellent point, Miguel. Oh, I'm sorry, Agnes. Did you have a
No, no,
follow up?
I just thought that that was a very good best practice that he just shared with our global audience, and how you could take a challenging situation and turn it into an excellent opportunity. And
Mhm.
also remembering, based on what Miguel just said, there were not technology experts. There was only two of them, and a lot of them were just regular people like you and I that work in the industry. So thank you so much for sharing that.
Yeah, that is an excellent example, Miguel, because the viewpoint I have arrived at after 2020 and almost the end of 2021 is we already had it figured it out. We just didn't realize it because we were already using all of these tools. But when we were forced into an unfamiliar situation, as you said, we panicked and we didn't know what
Mm,
to do. And I had the same reaction you did, Miguel, and I think Agnes probably did too, because we were working virtually for many years. I know I started working virtually in 2003 as a consultant, and Agnes and I both worked at an association for nursing home administrators that was a completely virtual organization, and we've been working virtually ever since. And and Agnes, how long have you been working virtually?
quite a while, at least I would say 5, 6, 7 years, if not
Oh my
longer.
gosh. Okay.
Yes,
Okay. So
yes,
kind of a newbie. All right. So kind
yes.
of, but in all seriousness, I started working virtually in 2003 because I did one of those crazy things and decided to become a solopreneur consultant with nothing but a laptop and a dream, like many of us do. But my reaction to the lockdown was, what's the big deal?
Mm,
Because I forgot how hard it was to adjust when I first started doing it. But at least in lockdown, we were all in it together. So,
Yeah.
but that's a great example of how we adapted in 2021, Miguel. So, where do you see that example taking us in 2022? Like, do you see like more 12,000 person conferences, which is just awesome and also kind of frightening that many people are in a virtual event. So, where do you see us going with that in 2022?
mhm,
Well, I think one of the big trends is uncertainty, that we don't
mm,
know exactly what's going to happen. And
No,
we
that's
have
a good point.
Omicron now, the new variant kind of causing havoc in travel. And we
Oh,
may,
yeah.
there may be a lot of event cancellations happening. So we don't know, right? We don't know where we're going to be. So I think having the flexibility to adapt is really important. And then I was going to say, I think you've been working from home for a long time, both of you. That's a skill, a little bit like the event technology skill in making online events, that I think you're going to see that a lot of people don't have. And that's a really valuable skill. And that's a really valuable to be able to show people how to work remotely. And I think this is going to be one of the things that's going to impact everything. This idea that more people are going to work remotely. I don't know if every company is going to, not travel and not have offices and work, be remote first, but there's going to be a lot more people working remotely. And that has a lot of impacts. That means that an event that is a Zoom webinar or a Zoom call is not going to cut it, because you're not going to be able to differentiate that from all the other meetings that you have that day. It just becomes another meeting, right? So getting used to that is going to be challenging. And so when you then try to use technology to bring people together, when you use technology to make, nonprofit projects work, you need to kind of make sure people understand the changes and understand how to use it in a sort of remote or hybrid workforce situation. So I think there's tremendous opportunities. There's things like on-sites, and bringing people together is going to be more important than ever. But I think it's just going to be different. I think companies are, rather than sort of having one big get together of everybody that comes from all around the world, that may not be possible for a while, because it's hard to, bring people together in large numbers like that. So there may be a need to do lots of smaller regional events or regional things where people come together, even if it's virtually. The other thing I've noticed a lot is, in theory, every virtual event is global.
Yes.
But in practice, that's not really the case, because of time zones, because of just different expectations. It doesn't actually work very well to have every event be a sort of global event. It's much more useful for me to understand what my peers that are in similar situation and similar regions to me are doing, and what I can do about it, rather than, I'm not saying I can't learn anything from somebody in New Zealand or Africa or anything like that, but I think it's different, and the number of events and how you put those together changes quite a bit. So I think it's pretty exciting, but it's a lot of change, and this uncertainty is really challenging. I think it's really going to challenge everybody.
Yeah.
Sorry, Cecilia, I wanted to just, Miguel, so looking at the non-for-profit community, how can, how can we use technology to enhance, our value or member value? Because a lot of the nonprofit have their stakeholders, and the stakeholders are either their members or their community. And I do believe that there is a tremendous opportunity here to use technology to enhance that. So can you share with our global audience how we could do that, or how we can accomplish that, particularly more so now with all this uncertainty that's surrounding us, that we don't know when and how it's going to end?
Sure. I don't have all the answers, of course, but I think the key there is the sense of community. Remember I said when we talked about the GMID Goes Virtual, it was a virtual hug for everybody because everybody was down.
I love that.
I think,
I do too.
Yeah, I think that's where the key is. And I think one area that many nonprofits excel at is the sense of community, and the sense of, it's a nonprofit. There's a cause behind it. You want to improve people's lives. You want to do something to help people. And sometimes that just starts with saying hello, with welcoming people, with hearing people out, with listening to their problems. So I believe that technology can help, but the best thing we can do with technology is not make it a barrier. I think a lot of people start to think technology, bells and whistles, I'm going to do all these things and have the best tools and do everything in an amazing way. And I think sometimes the best thing a nonprofit can do is, for example, run a really good group on Facebook. You can get lots of great technology to replace Facebook because it's dangerous to run it on Facebook. It could be closed the next day. There's all these issues around it. But at the end of the day, if your members, if the people that you're trying to connect with are all on Facebook and they're comfortable with Facebook and it works, then I really feel like trying to go away from that is a mistake. It's more about, hey, you like this place, or a WhatsApp group maybe, or something else, but something simple that doesn't get in the way of the nonprofit's mission. right?
Right.
And bringing people together, no matter what that mission is, bringing people together is, I think, 100% of the cases always part of that, right? Because you need to have that community, you need to have that voice coming together. So I could talk about, millions of event technology trends, but if we can do away with all the extra barriers that technology can create and focus on how it can help bring people together, then I think you're winning, right? Then I think you're actually doing a service to the people that you're serving.
Totally agree.
Yeah, I really agree with that. That's a great point, Miguel, because it really is about community, no matter how we connect. It's like I do a lot of work with CAE candidates getting ready for the exam. And in one of the groups I was working with last week, we talked about the fact that people watching is the oldest human hobby. So before we had telephones or anything, or even the written word, we were all watching each other and coming together, maybe talking about each other a little bit, but it's coming together however we're doing that, whether it's by the telephone, email, a letter, or getting together in person. That's really what it's always been about. And the only thing that's changed are the tools and the timing. So, and I also love your point about more frequent local and regional meetings, because that was a trend that was starting to happen anyway before the lockdown. So I think that's going to continue as well. Excellent example about international time zones. I was on a networking event last week for Institute of Management Consultants, and we had people who signed into a 5 p.m. Eastern time networking call at 2:00 in the morning where they were in the Middle East, Africa, Asia, and it was just awesome. But they were being very quiet because they don't want to wake anyone up at home. But they were, but it's like 2:00 in the morning. People are hungry for connection. And I think you've given our audience some wonderful tips about how to keep that connection going. And we will definitely have you back to talk more about some of these issues. Unfortunately, we are already at the end of our episode. So before we sign off, Agnes, any closing thoughts or comments about our topic?
One of the closing thoughts, and this is from Miguel, actually, just trying to summarize some of his thought process, is keeping that technology simple and really recognizing how our members want to connect, how they want to communicate. Because sometimes the barrier for us as the non-for-profit communities, we hear of technology, there's this, sounding alarm going on in our heads. It's going to cost thousands and thousands of dollars. It's going to be complicated. It's going to be complex. But what I've heard from Miguel today is that it can be simple. Just identifying how your members want to connect, whether it's Facebook, whether it's Zoom, just look at the basic, simple method of communication or how they choose to and work with that. And that's what creates the success. That's what makes it happen for the association community. And that's how you engage your membership. So thank you, Miguel, for sharing that with us and letting us recognize that it doesn't have to be complicated to really reach out to the community that we serve.
Thank you. Oh, that's an excellent summary. Thank you. So, well, Miguel, as we like to wrap up our episode, we love to ask our guests, what is the one thought you would like the audience to take away? And if they'd like to continue the conversation with you, how can they get in touch?
Yeah, I guess Agnes really summarized it really well. I think the one thought would be to make sure you use technology as a tool to fulfill the objectives that you have and not create a barrier for reaching those objectives. I think that's probably the best takeaway I can leave you with. If anybody wants to connect with me, please connect with me on LinkedIn. Miguel Neves. I'm actually quite hard to find on LinkedIn for some reason, but when I started off kind of using the internet, I created a pseudonym for me, which is Miguel7. So 7 spelt out, which is my last name spelt backwards. So if you type in Miguel7, I'll show up on LinkedIn, and feel free to connect with me on there. And I'm also on Twitter as Miguel7. So that's kind of me on the internet.
Oh, that's great. That's very clever. I like that.
I like that. Yes.
Well, we have to go rogue for now, but thanks for joining us this week. We'll be back next time with another exciting episode. If you'd like to learn more about Rogue Tulips, check us out at our website, roguetulips.com, and check out our sister company, the 501c League, a leader in CAE education and preparation. You can find out more about the league at the 501cleague.net. Thanks, everybody. See you next time.